In this video, we're going to take a look at the Pythagorean Theorem. Now, the Pythagorean Theorem states that in a right-angled triangle, the square of the hypotenuse side is equal to the sum of the squares of the other two sides. Now, for this example shown here, the right-angled triangle's hypotenuse is the 15. Now, the hypotenuse is defined to be the longest side of the triangle, or the opposite side of the right angle. So this is the opposite side of the right angle, also the longest side of the triangle, and it's defined to be the hypotenuse. Now again, using the information that the Pythagorean theorem is equivalent to the square of the hypotenuse equaling the sum of squares of the other two sides, use that information to try to find the last side of this triangle here. So remember, if this was a right angle triangle here, and my hypotenuse side is labeled as C, then the Pythagorean theorem states that the hypotenuse squared, C squared, is equal to the sum of the squares of the other two sides. So adding up A squared plus B squared is equal to your hypotenuse squared. I want you to pause the video now and use this information here to figure out the last side of this right angle triangle here. So here in our question, our right angle triangle, we are given the hypotenuse side to be 15, and we're also given one other side of this triangle to be 9, and we need to find the side labeled B. So we're going to use this Pythagorean theorem right here that I'm circling, and we're going to substitute our information into the formula. So C squared is always your hypotenuse. Your hypotenuse, like I said, is the longest side of the right angle triangle. So your hypotenuse to this triangle shown here is 15. So 15 must go in the place where C is. So we're going to square that. And on the right-hand side of this equation, A squared plus B squared is just the addition of the other two squared sides. Now, for the other two squared sides, A and B, it doesn't matter which side you've labeled A or B. So if I've labeled this A instead of B, then that's fine. So in this question, A is the 9 and B is the side we don't know. Now if I were to switch that and say that B was 9 and this was A, it wouldn't make a difference for this formula right here. So A and B are basically interchangeable. However, for this right angle triangle, B is labeled on the one side, so this side must be A. So we're going to substitute our information in. A here is given to be 9. We're going to square that, and then add B squared, and B is what we're trying to figure out. So B is the unknown, and we want to solve for B. So we're going to square both of those numbers. 15 squared gives us 225. 9 squared gives us 81, and plus B squared. Again, the main goal here is to try to solve for B. So what I'm going to do now is subtract 81 from both sides. So I'm going to subtract 81 on the left-hand side, and I'm going to subtract 81 on the right-hand side, which would cancel out with this 81 shown here. So on the right-hand side, I have B squared now equals, on the left-hand side, 225 minus 81, which works out to a number of 144. Now, in order to solve for B, all we would have to do is take the square root of both sides. If I take the square root of B squared, that reduces to B. If I take the square root of 144 here, that would reduce to 12. So in this case, B equals 12, and that's the last side of your triangle.